Well, hello, that's me again. Today is Monday, April 17th, and we have a lot of things to discuss. And as I already stated, we are in the state of quickening when things begin to happen with an incredible speed. But before I go to the main subject of my discussion with you today, and I want to underscore that many people complain that, oh, you continuously exposing somebody from the American political science field or Russian liberals, and you know what is becoming kind of nauseating. Let me explain immediately. I did it. I am doing this and I will continue to do that because obviously this is one of the main tools, so to speak, the background against which we can observe all the incredible historical events which we observe today. But before I go on that issue, so to speak, let me explain to you some things which have to have attention paid to them, because one story simply doesn't want to go away. And this story is the story of this alleged 200 NATO high-ranking officers, primarily Poland, British, and some Americans, who were planning that counter-offensive. And this counter-offensive evidently was let's put it this way, stopped in its tracks because Russians have hypersonic weapons, and evidently those hypersonic weapons, they did the trick. And you all remember that a few weeks ago we had this rumor, so to speak, allegedly propagated by the website, the resource from Greece, which was close to NATO, allegedly, that Russians killed a number of the high-ranking NATO officers. Well, guess what? This story never went away. It was around, circulating here and there. And then suddenly, 2 days ago, we have the Komsomolskaya Pravda, which is a major, it's not semi-tabloid, I wouldn't call it semi-tabloid, but it has a kind of yellowish, sometimes the hue on it. But generally speaking, Viktor Baranets, the colonel of the Russian armed forces and the man which is close to Russian general staff and other military circles, he is the main military observer of this very famous newspaper in Russia. And that's when those things start kind of, let me put it this way, get interesting. Here it is. Here's his article on the 14th, 3 days ago, and it's called clearly The Catastrophe of the NATO Forces at Ukraine, how Russia with a single strike of Kinzhal at a secret bunker moved the counter-offensive of armed forces of Ukraine, so further down the road. So basically this article is about the attack by those Kinzhals, and you might remember early March it was officially stated that the Russian Ministry of Defense actually launched 6 Kinzhals in one day. And remember, I was talking about it, and I was talking about it precisely because of Mr. Comrade Z and his Chinese delegation visiting Moscow. But look what Baranets disclosed, and he is talking about this backup command post of the former Transcarpathian military district of the Soviet army, and it was a very well defended and very well deeply dug the bunker. Well, it's basically a combination of the bunkers, and it was equipped with the modern systems of the communications, and that's why basically those generals and colonels of NATO liked it. And he gives now the explanation and actually description of what happened. And the way this 100 meters deep bunker has been penetrated, it was through evidently the fan system, the ventilation system, and it was several Kinzhals. why we can sit here and discuss whatever the possibility of there, but we know that combat use of kinjals already have proven the incredible penetrating capacity of those hypersonic systems, and there could be the fact that they literally just launched one after another into the same point and penetrated the depth of 100 meters. We know that at the start of the special military operation, one of those kinjals, or two, they penetrated 60 meters at the former arsenal of the same Transcarpathian, former Transcarpathian military district, and it was even shown in the video by Russian Defense Ministry. So there you go. Evidently, there was a serious loss of life by the NATO personnel, and the NATO personnel which was directly involved in the planning of the operations, and this everybody continues to expect it, counter-offensive. And yeah, Ukraine kind of gets forces, into some kind of groupings and preparing to do something to show to the Western curators that it can still fight. Well, whatever they do, it doesn't really matter, but kind of the other circumstantial evidence that this is very true, we have today's admission, and it is across the all major Russian media, and this is about the fact that Russian pilots, speaking at the anonymity, well, Russians usually when they speak on anonymity, those are real people and they speak usually the truth. Look at this. One of the pilots of Su-34, and that's the title of this piece today, is that because of the deficit of the pilots, the fighters of the air forces of Ukraine are piloted by the NATO mercenaries. And he speaks about that the majority of the whatever is allowed to fly before being shut down is flown on the Ukrainian side by primarily NATO pilots. Well, it's actually nothing new about it. It's well-known fact that basically bunch of NATO so-called mercenaries, many of them are not really mercenaries, they are cadre officers or NCOs who just officially retire, quote unquote, and then, obtain the new legend, so to speak, the cover as the free lancers, and they just go there and fly and drive the equipment, get killed in the industrial quantities, and there you go. But obviously the fact that there was a serious loss of life is very important, and this Kinjal strike, again, if you look at my videos dedicated to Comrade Z visit, I thought it was the demonstration. It could have been. But it was absolutely clear that whatever the launch was of those 6 Kinjals, it definitely achieved its objectives. So, but we also have, don't forget, this situation with the leaks. And this leak thing now takes on the life of its own, and it doesn't want to go away. A bit that, and you can look at Judge Napolitano and Larry Johnson and visit various excellent blog and read about all those red flags about this guy who is whistleblower, what have you. But obviously leaks inspired a very, very serious and butthurt reaction from many quarters of the deep state or those globalists, and you have to really see for yourself. And I spoke about it, and I produced the analogy of the test, the car which is being crushed against the concrete wall and crushed as dummies of all those people who for decades have been basically shaping and forming America's foreign policy and military policies, and then suddenly recognizing that basically everything they were doing is fraud. Some of them understand that. Well, I'm going further and I'm explaining, and you can quote me on that. Most of those scholars and academicians are academic frauds. They never knew anything of value. And let me start with this thing. And this is all inspired by the leaks and obviously damage control issue, which they really need, provide on a daily basis because it becomes really important. We will start with the Foreign Affairs article I will explain to you who wrote this article, but it is about what's really going on between Russia and China. Behind the scenes, they're deepening their defense partnerships. It's written by Alexander Gabuyev. And obviously it comes really well together with the obviously visit of the Minister of the Defense of China and Mr. Li Shangfu. And here is from yesterday when Mr. Li Shangfu was met by Mr. Putin, no less, and Mr. Putin praised the development of the military cooperation between Russia and China, and he basically stressed that Mr. Li Shangfu is very welcome in Moscow, and for those who doesn't know, he is there for 4 days, and as many people already surmised, he is there primarily for the shopping spree. And what will be the shopping spree, we will learn later. But you can go back to my video about Mr. Xi visit to Moscow and what already have been stated by me on many occasions. Most likely there will be not just all those sophisticated air defense systems, but there will be also, there is a very good level probability of China obtaining the use of Russian, at least some hypersonic weapons. But that brings us back to this foreign affairs, which is the rag by the Council on the Foreign Relations. Most of those people in there not understanding what is going on around there. And look what this Mr. Gabuyev writes. He writes that Moscow remains the junior partner in the Russia-China axis, if you wish, and right now, however, Beijing has no interest in drawing attention to such deals when he talks about the deals on the energy and military, in order to avoid criticism for providing cash for Putin war chest. Yes, and here we have to come to this situation of which I wanted to make the main point of my discussion with you today. As I already stated, if you see American political scientists, or you see a Russian political scientist with curriculum vitae of this boy Gabuyev, you can immediately discount it as propaganda because this is the only thing they know what to do. And this boy Gabuyev, look at his curriculum vitae if you want to see what he looks like and what he represents out of himself. Here it is. This is you can look at his face, basically it already speaks to you that there's something wrong with him. Look at this. Alexander Gabuyev is director of the Carnegie Russia Eurasia Center, where he leads a renowned team of analysts who were formerly part of the Carnegie Moscow Center, which was forced to close by Kremlin in early 2022 after nearly 3 decades of operations. So yes, good for Kremlin closing this basically shady front for the regime change. And Mr. Gabuyev, he looks like you would expect, looking for the Moscow boy who doesn't know any difference between you know what. And here it is. Look at his education. Oh my God, Bachelor in Chinese History, Moscow State University. Sure. Then he is the Master's in the same Chinese History. As you can see yourself, it is 2000s. So the guy is really he's around 40 and he doesn't know anything because he is the victim of the what called liberal system of education in Russia. And guess what? Obviously, he goes to this notorious Higher School of Economics in Moscow, which is the nest of the most pro-Western, pro-liberal imbeciles, and which is basically also the base of operation for the operations of influence against Russia by all kinds of the Western Front organization. But look what he gets, MA. Stock markets and investments. What kind of education is that? I don't know, because I don't even understand what you can teach in that kind of the type of the department, if you wish, because anybody with the basic degree in anything substantial, they will figure out the markets and investments completely on their own. But look at this. If you look attentively at what this guy who speaks actually Chinese Gabui's own research is focused on Russian foreign policy with particular focus on the impact of the war in Ukraine and the Sino-Russia relationship. And he started his career as journalist, guess what, in the Kommersant, which is another operation of influence, cesspool of the pro-liberal Russophobes. And when you look at this and you ask the only question, no, it's obvious that the guy is the shill and probably is paid for writing all kinds of the pseudo-academic crap, but how this piece of work can study anything about war when he has zero background in anything warfare related. In fact, people like him couldn't be more removed from anything connected to the real statesmanship, real economy, let alone real war. Well, that's the only type of Russian specialists, so to speak, quote unquote, which are allowed in the United States. If you want to ask me why I am constantly insisting on this, and you can look up obviously the video about Rebecca Koeffler, self-proclaimed specialist in understanding Russian strategic thinking, the former English teacher. But guess what? She worked, and evidently she was kicked out of the defense intelligence or whatever, wherever she worked there. But that's the type of American scholars who right now are lost completely in the reality because they don't have basic academic toolkit to even understand and grasp what is going on there. And this is not only about globalists. So-called realists are the same way. They have no clue. They don't understand. And that is why I constantly use John Mearsheimer or even Andrew Basevich, who is the cadre officer, colonel, and he is graduate of the West Point. Those people cannot even grasp what is going on in terms of the real military operations and strategies and grand strategies. Yet, guess what? The leaks, which basically is nothing more than the good proof of the, absolutely historic FUBAR. Miscalculation unprecedented in the last 500 years by the Washington. We have this thing. So we suddenly, the Center for the Strategic International Studies gets to talk about Russian sanctions on the Russian defense industry. Let me put it this way. I honestly suffered and tortured myself through most of it, and guess what? When you look attentively at who are the hosts there, you can see yourself that the guy who is whatever his name, Marx Bergman, he is political scientist. Then we have Maria Snegovaya, and then we have the Paul Schwartz, allegedly specialists in Russia and Russian industry and what have you. Let's take a look why I had to suffer through the hour and a half of absolute delirium, a lack of any understanding of what is going on, and why I'm saying that political science, journalism are not professions. They are not even valid degrees. They are hodgepodge combination of the random facts, and they are susceptible, due of them not being any real science, they are susceptible to basically juxtapositioning of the facts and creating narratives. Give me 5 facts, I will create 25 narratives. And that's as simple as that. But here it is. Let's open the first the curriculum vitae of this lady, Maria Snegovaya. Look at this. She's Russian, but look at this. We open this and oh my God. Guess where she graduated from? Higher School of Economics, candidate of science degree, economics and finance. And she studied under Mr. Yasin, who was one of the criminals, basically, and leaders of the liberal demolition of Russia in 90s under Yeltsin cabal. And guess what he can teach her? And guess who those people are? They are effectively the shells and the direct agents of all kinds of the front organization from the West. And guess what? This is the only ticket for you guys, if you are from Russia, is to any kind of American or Western think tanks, because you need to be Russophobe and you need to operate within the pseudo-academic echo chamber environment. Then, of course, she has the PhD in political science. In other words, she has zero clue about anything related to actual, as I already stated, real governorship of the serious country, superpower, nuclear state, which has a massive economy and massive armed forces. These are the people who come out and constantly express their opinions on what they know. And they know their research is nothing more than basically rubbing shoulders in whatever their echo chambers they attend, gathering rumors primarily, and then of course reading basically mass media, let's say from Russia, and primarily, you guessed it, it's the all kinds of all those liberal garbage and cesspool of the same people like they are who provide only narratives. But if this Snegovaya, who obviously she's clueless, absolutely, and she's a postdoctorate, whatever, we have this guy, and this guy is Mr. What's his name? Schwartz? Oh, no, pardon me. Yeah, Mr. Schwartz. And if you look attentively at his curriculum vitae, he is, guess what? Prior to joining CSISS, Mr. Schwartz had a long career in the legal profession at Hogan and Hartson, a DC-based international law firm. The guy is a lawyer, and yet guess what he's expressing in this hour and a half thing? He talks about ball bearings. Let me put it this way. I had huge urges and issues while suffering through all that. And obviously when you have, and again, make no mistake, nothing wrong to be a lawyer. Unlike the political scientists, lawyers are actually the legitimate profession and legitimate skill. You need to have this really great, judicial background and, But if you talk about ball bearings, you better attend the goddamn some kind of the, university and have degree. And the guy was talking about metallurgy. And he was saying that, yeah, Russia has issues with ball bearings. By the way, he is correct. Russia does have issues with ball bearings. But Mr. Schwartz, who is a lawyer, and he doesn't know the difference between metallurgy of Russia and metallurgy of China, he continues this thing about that, yeah, that's going to affect Russian performance. And let me put it this way. Not only he doesn't understand, for example, such number, which is 200,000. 200,000, this is the amount sorties probably by the end of May, which Russia will fly in by the airplanes, the combat aircraft in Ukraine. And this is an immense operational tempo if Mr. Schwartz doesn't understand this. And this is the first testimony that everything he talks about problem, which does exist in Russia, make no mistake, with Russian ball bearings is absolutely baloney because he doesn't know the subject. And to explain this, just to explain that the guy is absolutely out of it, he doesn't even understand what he's talking about, here it is. I did a basic, a research, which is very easy to do. And if you take a look even at this report of the market of the ball bearings of Russia from 2017 to 2023, which is issued just now in April, and look at this. Russia did depend a little bit on the Western and Chinese bearings, and you understand ball bearings is a part of it. There are cassette bearings, there are bearings of the sliding and all kinds of types of the bearings, but here it is. Look at what is underscored, underlined. In 2022, the Russian corporations and plants issued, produced 48,175,000 ball bearings and roll bearings, which is 33.6% higher compared to the results of the 2021. Okay, so even if you take all those sanctions and all those Western firms being sanctioned and not allowed with the ball bearings and other types of bearings in Russian market, even through this average, the growth is more than 0.5%. But this is just one of the reports on the bearings, which of course are the key for all other things, together with other things, for the serious industrial civilization. But look at this. We have another report on the ball bearings, which states, look at this, it was stated on in September, which is in the heat of the all those sanctions, that Russian market of the bearings in the 2022 showed a very fast trend of the growth of the internal the production of the bearings. And according to the one of the reports by the which is called Market of the Bearings from 2022, we have the growth of more than 26 million pieces, and it's absolute record. And in this case, if you want to understand how detached those people are and how they don't understand what they are talking about, I'll give you another example. Russians, and especially through Rosatom, but also through the all kinds of like Russian composite, within 7 years, they created the composite industry, literally, well, not from the ground zero. But now Russia is the number 4, it's the top 4 in production of the composite materials, from be them carbon fiber, be them fiberglass, be them prepregs, all kinds of ASTM approved specifications. They are the 4, one of the 4, top 4, and guess what the top 4 are? United States, Western Europe, Japan, and Russia. That is why MS-21 is the composite plane and the only plane with a black carbon fiber wing in its class. And it's all produced in Russia. Everything from start to finish. And when you begin to explain to those people, you read something, you don't even understand what you're reading. They don't have the toolkit. They don't have it academically. They don't have them from the point of view of their experience, life, or academic, or productive. Those people never have been on the production floor in their life. They don't understand how human interacts with the machine, let alone the weapon system. And here they are. They come out and produce this garbage of the so-called analysis, but this is what is in the foundation of the strategic catastrophe for the United States and for the basically what is coming down to be a combined West. And if you look attentively on all that, then you suddenly get, people who have this type of the expertise, pardon me. You have the imbeciles still willing to commit suicide. And G7 pledges fossil fuel phase out. They want this zero thing by 2050. So, you know what? Let them. Russia will be happy to obtain all kinds of the remainder of the technologies, whatever is available today in the Western Europe. But these are the people who do it. And these are the people who provide this basically shaping influence on the foreign policy, on the strategies, and what have you. And then, of course, they cannot understand how Russia is able to produce the new type of the electronic warfare with the ability to basically shut down the satellites at the geostationary orbit at 36,000 kilometers. How? And they can literally burn your electronics at the shorter ranges. And this system is already operational. And when you look at this and say, okay, guys, how can you explain that? Well, they can't. They don't understand how everything works because they are the products of the pseudo-academic fraudulent system of the education. In the United States, it ranges from the international relations to political science to what have you. Those people literally have no clue. And the history by the means of special military operation and gigantic geopolitical realignment called their bluff. They literally know nothing. And when now let's go back a little bit to people who actually know something. And Mr. Perkins, the general, who is the Fox contributor, he spoke to Neil Kavuta. I don't like Neil Kavuta. He is full of, of this excrement. But he spoke to Mr. General David Perkins, and Perkins, remarkably, being kind of, almost lucid when he was talking about, he actually stated the correct thing. It doesn't matter that this thing which he stated is not necessarily malignant per se, but he stated China wants the Ukraine war to drain US and Russia's resources. And he spoke about that China is one of the most opportunistic powers out there. I actually agree with him, but that also relates and remains correct for many powers of the size of Russia, United States, or China. They are all opportunistic to a degree, and this is called the real geopolitical realism. And when China does something opportunistic, it's true. But what Mr. Perkins, who has excellent curricular vitae. If you look at his curricular vitae, he is definitely the man who looks intellectual. He is intellectual. If you look at General's biography, he is definitely a very impressive man, and in the end, he was the commandant. He ended his service as the commandant of the United States Army Command and General Staff College and Force Leavenworth. It's it's not as highly developed, but still very important general staff level educational institute, and you have to be a good brainiacs, like David Petraeus, for example, to be in the command of this very important organization, not only for the US military, but in general for the thinking about warfare and developing the military thought. So the guy is definitely not some kind of fluke, but he also, unlike those political scientists, he doesn't understand how Russian economy works. And that is why those people, including this very respectable man, General David Perkins, they don't understand how Russia operates or China operates, because they don't have life experience with state developing a profound grand strategies and being actually in charge of the development in the strategic fields. And that means obviously part of the control of the state by the strategic industries, unlike it is in the United States, and ability to control and redirect resources. This is not how it happens in the United States. The United States doesn't know what it is. And that is why those people, including the General Perkins, they don't have any kind of experience with that. They still talk about it merely in terms of legislation, something which is passed by the Congress, and which obviously has the power of the purse, and then something which is implemented as legislation. Well, in Russia, it works differently, and that is why Perkins, while being formally, from the point of view of the formal logic, being correct, he is also incorrect. Russia is not losing actually resources. What is happening in Russia will have to be explained separately and not in a single video, because Russian economy grows and grows really fast. I'm talking about industrial sector, and no, it's not just the military-industrial complex. And that's what happens when you have the economic model which is radically now not liberal, not neoliberal. But when you look at those people from the CSIS, all this Gabuyev dude, this boy who has no clue what he's talking about, although he speaks Chinese and understands some things about Chinese history. I don't. So, or you have this Snegovaya, or you have those people speaking in the Center for Strategic and International Studies. They have no clue how it works. They simply have no toolkit to grasp it, because they are neoliberal and neocon type of people who are ideologues and who do not understand how war, real economy, and real governance work. They simply don't. And that is why it's a tragedy and it's a catastrophe of the general humanities education in the United States, which, as that proverbial car, have been smacked against the concrete wall of the reality, and now are nothing more than the mangled, crushed remnants of the what used to be, and shiny, academic, thought presented as some kind of authority. They are not. They are not even close. So this is what I wanted to talk to you about today, and guys, as always, I want to express my profound gratitude for people who support me, both buying me a coffee and my patrons. Forgive me that I do not always have time to put all your names in the list to demonstrate to people, but I know who you are. Forgive me if I sometimes do not respond immediately to you, or don't respond at all to your emails and messages. I'm just that busy, guys. So, but I want to say thank you. You are the ones who are supporting my work. And I hope so you will continue to do so. And for those people who are new, please subscribe to my channel and support me on the Patreon and buy me a coffee too. I would really appreciate your help. And this is what I wanted to tell you today, guys. And what can I say? Have a nice week ahead of you, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.